Hey, ding dong, what's up, guys? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Well, I'm gonna let this thing go live for a little while because it's not gonna be an official podcast. I don't know why my laptop died. Everything died. Anyway, what's happening, Print Bam? Welcome to the Print Life Live. Cell phone edition. So as you guys are aware, I always have problems. We went, I think, 3 straight episodes without any hiccups in the audio. So naturally, we had to have an audio hiccup. For whatever reason, the thing was echoing and bouncing all over the place. It just wasn't working. So like last minute, I just queued up the cell phone, and that is how I'm live today. So it's a lot easier. But let me get logged into. I reset my computer to try to get the thing to work, and the audio was just all jacked up, so I gave up. I'm going to see if we can kind of conduct this with business as usual, and hopefully it works, and we can just move forward. It's not bad. How's the audio? I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's good enough. Yeah, guys, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you made it to the thing. I'm going to just try to conduct this thing like I normally would. The only thing that we can't do is the hotline today, obviously, because I can't feed it into the thing. But we'll get through it somehow. So, welcome everyone to the show. If you're new, my name is Cam. I'm a screen printer from Phoenix, Arizona. And this is the Print Life Live. So, what's going to happen today in the Print Live? We're going to start with some independent news from the Facebook group. After that, we're going to move on to our business topic of the day. And this is by special request from Jason in regards to wet-on-wet printing. I mean, dude, you can have a conversation about that for hours, depending on how technical you want to get. But I'm just going to do like an overview of it. I'm working on a dedicated video to that right now. So it's going to be like, we're going to hit that. We're going to hit that twice. And then after that, we will move on to a Q&A, which I'm just going to do in the little chat thing here. And I saw you guys chatting, but I lost it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so what's up, guys? Everyone who's made it in, thank you so much for watching. And then that'll be the end of the show. We're going to move through this thing pretty quickly. But before we do that, let's do the social reminders. Follow me at Cam Earven on Instagram and Twitter. There's no indicator here, so it's at CAMEARVEN. Subscribe to the Print Life Podcast on iTunes and or Google Play. Leave 5 stars and a glowing review. Share my YouTube videos a lot. Make sure you're subscribed, and commenting on everything. And, you know, you guys have started DMing me. Sounded like someone walked in. With your interest for being on the show, so thank you for that. We got a nice little roster of guests lined out. Hopefully, similar shit doesn't happen like just happened right now, where my thing glitched out on me and it just pisses me off. Can't believe it. Truthfully, I can't believe it. So if you're... Anyway, yeah, so that's that. There it is. Here. Why is this happening? Sorry, guys. I got an echo on my laptop here. Okay. I'm lost. I'm a little lost. It's weird not having my consistent setup that makes it a little easier to flow through things. Anyway, yeah, let's move right into the shop news. I'm just going to visit the Facebook group on my laptop here. It's hot in here. My air conditioner broke. Burning up. And I'm okay. Let's get through some news here. Is there any news? Shop news. Okay, this is from Brian Buffka. He shared some more news. And this is in regards to TSC Apparel. They have acquired Think Actionwear. They're basically an apparel supplier since the 1980s. And it just helped them to expand their distribution in the industry. You know, that's what you do. You acquire businesses so that you can expand your reach, or, you know, you gain market share by buying other existing competitors. So that's what they have done. So that's pretty cool. Good news for, I guess, for TSC. I don't know. I don't know if that's good or not. A lot of questions, not a lot of news. Okay. Ronnie Freeman has also converted his exposure unit to LED. It's an older Lawson 48 by 32 unit, and he managed to get the exposure calculations done. Oh, he hasn't done that yet. But as far as he can tell, it's still exposing his screens in under a minute. So that's really good, man. Fucking right on, bro. Good job, Ronnie. Let's see what else we got. Yeah. Everybody, if you're just joining in, welcome. I've had some technical difficulties with my live streaming setup, so I'm on my phone. Hopefully, I mean, it's probably, of all the ways to go live, this is definitely the easiest. It doesn't allow me to have all my little banners and stuff, but it does seem to work, you know, in a pinch. Okay, here's some shop news from Rob Salazar. This is something, dude, I can't play videos on this one, Rob, so I'll make sure to do it next time. Yeah, I'll make sure to play it when everything's back up and running. This is from Jamie Lineback. She officially finished her first job, and you guys can't see this, you know, like on the live feed, but I'm just going to explain it. It's for Soma June Kombucha, and she did it with water-based, and, like, it's a really good job. A really good job. So I'm glad you made it work, and you should be really stoked on that, because the prints just, they look good. Looks real damn good to me. So congratulations, Jamie. Shop news from Andrew Farias. He worked at a shop losing his mind over approvals. Worked on 6-color halftone job this week. Had to reburn 6 screens. 6 hours of setup and reprinting samples. Then had to wait for a full day for approval. What do y'all do to avoid this? For like, I mean, that's a question more so than it's shop news mixed with the question. You basically just tell them that if they want to see a sample, it's going to cost a shitload. That'll usually avoid it. I think we charge, I don't know, like $30 for each setup on a sample, some shit like that. I've made it so expensive that I've never actually had to do one, but it's definitely over $100 for a sample. And that usually keeps them from even, and then you can make sense of it too. It's like, yeah, if you were getting a 1,000-piece run done, then it would be worth it for everyone. It's worth it for you to do a pre-run sample, but you just don't want to do them, man. I avoid them at all costs. Bill Corcoran is, I'm sure you guys probably saw this, and I might have shared it last time, but he's actually trying to develop his own RIP software. So if you guys, yeah, I guess I'm going to give him a shout out. Red Door RIP, you can go follow him on the Facebook group, Red Door RIP. It could be good, man. It'd be nice to have someone, much like I'm trying to do with my software, offer just an affordable solution that's good, you know? So you guys definitely go check him out. We'll see how it works out. And Josh Lappa says he guesses that this could be shop news. After 6 months of research, a million doubts, and a few dozen trials and tribulations, he jumped in head first and he purchased his gear. And then he got it set up. He put his first ink down tonight, but that was on May the 10th. It's, you know, 6 days ago. And he's stoked on the whole thing, and it's all been a journey for him, but he wants to shout out me. Thanks for the shout out, and he wants to shout you guys out. Thanks for all your input and for you know, helping him out through this whole thing. Probably a lot of you have been helping him with the on the Facebook group, so that's really awesome of you. Thank you guys for that. Shot, and we're down to last year's stuff. So that was it, man. So we just kind of banged right through that shop news. Because I'm on this phone, it means I can't bounce this thing to iTunes, so I really am not even that concerned with running the full hour on this one. So we'll just blast right through all this stuff. The next thing on the agenda would have been our business topic of the day. And today, I mean, dude, I actually literally have my script already written for wet-on-wet printing. And, you know, like, it's kind of like I don't want to put it all out there because I want to be the first one to drop the video, you know, before everybody else. But I guess we'll talk about it a little bit. So, if you guys, it sounds to me like everyone just struggles with wet on wet printing, and the main reasons why are obviously the buildup on the bottom of the screens, right? I mean, this is gonna just, that's just the fact of the whole thing. Madison's. Hey, what's up, Ben, Mike? How are you? You guys, my nephews are here, so just say hi to them. This is, what's up, guys? Anyway, yeah, back to the thing. If that is a struggle that you're having, there are dozens of techniques that you can utilize to start making the process of wet on wet printing easier. But wet on wet printing is actually a very, very easy concept as long as you do a few key things. Now, let me remind myself, because I made an actual list of all this stuff. My brain is just kind of, I haven't really thought about it all day, so I gotta get myself on track here. Okay, so the first thing is, when it comes to doing wet on wet printing, is your underbase. You want it to ultimately be as thin as possible, and not so much for opacity reasons, but when it's thinner, there's more fibers, you know, that will allow those fibers to hold on to that next layer of ink, which is the inks you're going to be doing wet on wet. And the thinner your underbase is, the better adhesion they're basically going to have, the overprint colors, the wet on wet colors. So you do want to keep your underbase as thin as possible. You know, you're going to want to do a higher mesh underbase, so you're going to probably start at 160s. You can do, you know, probably even better off with a 200, something like that. And if you're really going for efficiency in the wet on wet thing, you may even consider like a discharge base. Those kind of things will be the first step to kind of helping you get that shit worked out. The second thing is in regards to actual mesh selection, which, I mean, this stuff's all pretty obvious. You know, if you try using a 110, a 160, even a 200, there's a very good chance that the buildup is just going to be so thick because you're laying so much ink down on that substrate that when you lay your next screen down on top of it, naturally it's going to lift up. It's going to lift something, and then over time, over 10 shirts, 20 shirts, 100 shirts, the buildup will get so thick that your image starts bleeding and squishing together. So raise the mesh counts up, especially on the overprint colors. You got to be starting at a 200, but I would say a 230, even maybe a 320, a 300, whatever. There's so many different mesh counts now, but you know what I'm saying. Get your mesh counts way, way, way up. That usually helps, man. We also, on our mesh, we will use the silicone spray. Now, there is some tricks to this. I've heard some people raise concerns about it not making the ink adhere to it, but it literally does not deposit any silicone on the substrate, especially if you spray it and then you grab a rag and you wipe it. You're basically just putting some slippery properties on the bottom of the screen. It doesn't release any silicone onto the substrate. So we spray all the screens we're going to be doing wet on wet with silicone, and then we wipe them with a rag. You just do it at the beginning of the job, and it really does. It helps with the lift up. The other things, which are just, this is just key stuff here, is in the inks. So most importantly, you do not want to use high opacity inks. So Wilflex has a line of them, Union has a line of them. They all have, you know, I think we have the Wilflex Super, which I think is now called Rio. I don't know, man, who can keep up with this shit, but we're still using the Super series. And when you try to wet on wet that stuff, it's so thick, it's so opaque that the buildup happens almost instantly. Things are sticking. It's super hard to print with it. So you want to use just your traditional, fairly translucent inks for wet on wet stuff, right? Fairly translucent. The basic, I don't even know what Wilflex's basic ink lineup is called. I think it's just Epic. I think it's just Epic series, which works fine. What else did I write in here? So let me start this. And what you'll hear a lot of the times, and you'll hear, this is something that I've noticed a lot, you get a lot of advice to reduce your inks down. And I believe that should be like a last-ditch effort, and in most cases you don't have to do that. As long as you have high enough mesh counts, and you do the next things that I'm going to talk about, you shouldn't have to reduce it. I would only reduce things down if you absolutely have to, because in most cases they're thin enough. So you've got your higher mesh counts, you're doing all that good stuff. We got 72 viewers right now. That's pretty awesome, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're just hanging in there, oh, and shout out to Shroom Brothers for the super chat. It's awesome. Thank you so much. What was I gonna say? Yeah, if you guys are just tuning in, guys, I had a glitch with the live system, so I'm just doing this from my phone. Cool, cool. Glad you guys are here. We got to get to 100, man, so I can start bringing guests in. But yeah, so avoid reducing your inks down if you can. Use that as a last step or a last ditch effort. You selected your right meshes, you got your ink sorted out, you're trying to lay as thin of an underbase as you possibly can so that the overprint colors have some fabric that they can still adhere to, and you're not using super opaque inks, you're using like standard opacity inks. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you go from the most translucent colors to the most opaque colors. Like yellow is super translucent, so obviously you want to lay that down first. It has the least amount of body, so you would always lay your yellow first because it has the least amount of body, which means it's going to be less likely to pick up off the screen. Then you're going to move on to the next least translucent colors, which are like your reds. I mean, red is fairly translucent depending on what type of red you get. And so on and so forth. Another option is, if you're not going for translucency, it's just obviously to go with the screen that has the least amount of information or the least amount of openings, so it's laying down the least amount of ink on the surface area, to the ones that has a little bit more until the top. Obviously, that stuff's pretty straightforward, I think, right? What was that? What else did I write? Like right here, guys. I'm looking at my thing. Oh yeah. This is something this is for both the underbase and the other things. So you definitely, and I just learned this actually not too long ago, but using softer squeegees on the overprint. So you can use your regular stuff for your underbase, a little bit harder, 70 or like the 70, 90, 70 Duro squeegees for your underbase, so that you're driving that ink into the substrate or into the shirt. Again, trying to make the thinnest underbase possible. But on the overprint, you want to use a super soft squeegee, like a 60 Duro or some shit like that. The 60 puts less force on the ink. The first color that you've laid down, it puts less force on it, so it's less likely to adhere to the bottom of the screen and lift. So try to use softer durometer squeegees on your wet sequence. What else did I write on this damn thing, man? I made all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, angle. And this one's another thing, and you start using this a lot when you're doing halftone or simulated processes. You really do start adjusting your angles. So most of us print a white, our white prints at like a 45 or something like that, nice angle. And that's fine. You're going to do your underbase at that same kind of 45-degree angle. But when you're doing your overprints, you want to raise your angles up. I mean, almost 90 degrees. Maybe, well, I don't know what that would be. Wait, what's this? What is that? What degree is that? Straight up? A little bit of tilt. What is that, like 20 degrees? 30 degrees? 40? Something like that. Pretty high angles. That prevents laying too much ink down. It also creates like a pill effect on the screen. The higher your angles are, we'll get into that shit in a second. 14 angles. Flash. Oh yeah, flashing. So this is something, dude, when it comes to flashing, that even I have a horrible bad habit of doing. In the past, I always felt like, oh, if I did a print, and then I flashed it and I brought it back around, and if something was sticking, I was like, oh shit, I didn't flash it well enough. So I would up the flash temperatures, and sure as shit, I would get ink seizing in openings, and I would get lift up, and wet on wet became a nightmare. The whole trick to flashing is you're gonna turn it down. And the more that I look into this and really learn and try to remember this stuff myself, flashing is more about maintaining palette temperatures. And your palette, the temps that you're going for on your palettes, and this is pretty much universal, I also just recently learned this for water-based inks, is you're trying to maintain 120 degrees on the palette. If you can maintain a consistent temperature of 120 degrees on palette, you will usually get like a gel, or you'll get to that gelling degree with the plastisol, which is like 180 or 190 degrees. which is where you want to be. You don't want to exceed that because now you're curing, and when you're curing the inks, it's a lot hotter, and then it has a tendency to stick, and it's not as likely to gel, and you're going to have the ink lifting off of itself and all that kind of stuff. So shoot for 120 degrees on the palettes, and shoot to not exceed 180 degrees on the actual ink during the cure. That's what you should be shooting for, 180 degrees on the underprint. So definitely shoot for that. What else I got? Oh yeah. Now, and this is another thing, man, and I found this somewhere else, and this is kind of like the last little thing. It's a two-part thing, and you're really talking about your mesh counts and your off contact and all this shit. And they always love to bring up newtons, right, and how tight your screen tensions are and all this and that, which is fine if you're utilizing Newman rollers or something like that, but most of us don't. Most of us use static automatic screen frames, and we just try to keep the mesh as new as we can. So you want to have screens that are in good shape, that have decent tension on them. But the real thing is that, and this is a fact, like you use this a lot, if you're trying to get a thicker underbase or whatever, you'll raise your off contacts up, you know, with thicker stencils and all this and that. But when it comes to wet on wet printing, you can raise your off contact higher than normal, so that you're really truly getting the peel effect when you make the print. So you're making your print, and this is your mesh, and as you're pulling it, it's lifting off there, right? So basically, the only point that's touching the ink is right where the edge of your squeegee is. Everything else is like lifting off of itself like this, so that it has very little time to make contact with the ink that you laid down on the first pad, or the first layer of ink. The other thing is with overprinting, you want to print faster. So when you're doing wet on wet, you don't want to do your slow pulls like you do with your underbase and that kind of shit. You want to print it fast, real fast. You want to have you want to give as little time as possible for that ink to adhere to the bottom of the screen. So print fast with wet on wet printing. And what else is there? I think that's pretty much all I got here, man. Yeah, you got to raise that up. It gives us pretty much it. That should be a pretty good thing, man. It's really not that difficult. After you've done all those steps, if you're still having issues with ink build, oh yeah, there was a couple more things too. Another problem that a lot of people have when it comes to doing that wet on wet type of thing is that they start to have bleeding, or they have things start blending together, right? That comes from two problems. If you're using low mesh counts and you're putting a lot of ink down, of course there's going to be more buildup, and then as it builds up, the ink starts squishing together, pancaking, and bleeding into each other. So you got to get the ink deposit as light as possible. But the other thing is you have to think you have to be an automatic printer. Even if you're printing manually, you have to follow the same, or as close to the same path every single time. Also, only doing one pull. You don't want to do two pulls. You want to be able to get your print the exact same path every single time, only doing one pull and doing it fast. That helps. That helps every single time. That's really that's the thing right there. If you can pull that off, you should be able to do wet on wet. It shouldn't be that difficult. So hopefully that helps, guys. If you're new to this channel, guys, or if you're not familiar with the deal, it's 72 of you. Most of you are here every week, so make sure to like this video at the end or right now and all that good stuff. Make sure when we're done with this, you leave a comment, something like Print Fam was here, or thanks for the show, or some kind of shit like that. Also, if you have any wet on wet tips, leave them in the comments so that everybody else can take advantage of them. Or if I didn't hit something, I feel like I didn't write it all down. And I'm sitting here wishing that I had, because there was a bunch of other little tips and tricks that I had in there, but just couldn't think of them. So leave them in the comments, guys. That's pretty much it for the business topic of the day. And I can't really do a shout out. Where's my thing? I can't do the Instagram shout out because I can't show the deal. I guess technically I still could, but nah, we're not gonna do that. We'll save it for next time. This is the topic of the day. So let's move on into the Q&A portion of this thing, man. We're gonna move through this quickly. Dude, it's really hard to read the chat on my phone. All right, so I'm gonna hold this up here. DTD, money, hell yeah. Okay, guys, so if you have a question directed at me, just do the app, the print live thing, and start firing off them questions. Yeah, no hotline today. Sorry. I don't know what. Terrence Cruel just responded to your email. Printing embroidery. Got it. Good. Cool. Snakebite. What's up, Snakebite? Everybody's here. Everybody's happy. Got 71 of you guys hanging in strong. That's pretty good, man. I mean, it ain't the numbers we had early on before I started having tons of technical difficulty. Yeah, flock printing. It's cool, man. I know what it is. I have never done it. But, yeah, I think it's just adhesive, and then there's like these little, you know, flakes of what kind of feel like suede or something like that, or velour. And you shake them over the ink, and it sticks, and it kind of gives like a velour type of deal. Pretty cool. Yeah, smaller prints first, definitely. Don't really know if it was a business topic, more like a print topic, but it worked, man. I'm doing that. I started shooting that video like this week. Dude, shooting actual planned videos is so hard for me. I suck at writing scripts. I'm horrible at relaying information. Like in an organized, reasonable fashion, and they just frustrate me. So I end up reshooting them a handful of times. Guys, I'm looking for questions, and if we don't have any, dude, honestly, we can keep this thing nice and short today, dudes. I got no problems with that. For everyone that did call into the hotline, don't sweat it. We'll do a long Q&A next week when I figure out this fucking audio issue. Dude, I mean, really, fucking really. Had to work. It had to, right? It's like it had to, because we had 3 shows in a row, and there were no technical difficulties. So it's like, nah, it wasn't gonna give it to me, dude. But here's the thing, I didn't change anything on this system. Nothing. The only thing that I can think is that maybe Windows did like an update in the middle of the night, and then that update did some weird stuff to the audio properties. I don't know. I didn't change nothing. So there's no reason for it to all of a sudden start doing this like double echo thing. I have no clue, but it's infuriating. But it wasn't my fault, guys. I gotta tell you this time, it wasn't my fault. DTG for CMYK. CMYK is the same thing. You go from the most translucent to the most opaque. I mean, you always want to do yellow first. And this is the thing. You always lay down yellow first. But I mean, there are dozens of printers that swear that you can't go by the rule. Like sometimes you have to lay the magenta down first. Gosh darn it! Sorry. The question things keep fading away. Yeah, that you have to lay the magenta down first, and then the cyan. You know, there's just these different things that I've heard, and I'm not super good. I'm not good at all at doing CMYK. I haven't done enough of it. But my understanding is you lay yellow first, and you may have to flip-flop on the cyan magenta, and then you lay the key down or the black after that. Cool. Dude, we always appreciate your efforts. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I just get frustrated, dude. I want all my audio equipment to I just want it to be like, you know, like the Joe Rogan show. Just awesome. Yeah, so did Windows have an update, Brian? Is that what it was? Because, you know, I'm looking at the audio card, too, and they did something weird even with, like, you know, when you right-click on the speaker icon. It must have been that, dude. Something has changed. And since, that must be what it is. Yeah, so good. So it wasn't just me. Okay, that's what it was then.